Very good morning and welcome to today's live market profile and order flow trade analysis by Tradeducation. We are at episode 220 and before I share today's analysis, I'd just like to go through a quick disclaimer that trading involves substantial risk and is not suitable for all investors. Also, the information which I'm sharing is for educational purposes only and cannot be used for any trade related activity. Okay. So let me quickly share my screen and let's study how the auction developed yesterday. Okay. So first of all, I'm just going through the dynamic volume profile or the volume profile chart. And if you see, so we are in a sort of a balance from 17th of November till yesterday's auction, that is 26th of November. Okay. So this is the overall volume profile of that day. Of that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah? So seven days of balance. I'm not considering the 26th of November, but overall, from this 6 to 7 days of balance, what I shared is, this particular zone will act as the level of support where buyers are present, and this is the zone. So one balance, this is the second balance, and this is the third balance. Okay, this entire zone is where sellers or good selling pressure is there. So the reason why I'm starting today's session with this is if you see yesterday, so this is the auction. So 26th of November was yesterday. This is the auction of yesterday and where the auction halted. The auction halted at the value area low of the volume profile, and this was also the low volume area low. Okay, so one clear indication was when this sort of wicks were getting formed. So this is the first 1 hour candle. So yesterday, if we study the auction, what happened is first candle when heavy selling pressure, heavy sellers came in, followed by momentum sellers. This is the second candle. It was more of an inside candle. The third candle, it clearly tagged the low, and then it was finding a sort of absorption of supply, and it was not getting any follow through. Okay, so first three candles is where heavy or that were dominated by sellers, and then buyers came in, absorption of supply happened. So when this sort of candle formed, so your actual trade entry would be, if you see around VPOC or if you see this sort of rejection around VPOC. Okay, so this candle is going to act as the level of support for the coming auction, from intraday perspective. Okay, so this will act as a support, and then buyers came in. So after this candle, this is the candle where you could have entered the trade around VPOC or around the high of this candle, keeping a stop loss maybe at the mid or at the low of the candle. Okay, so this is where I entered, and then I traded for the I traded till 3:15. That's where the intraday orders at 3:10. Sorry, and that's where the intraday orders are squared off. So before that, I exited and around I don't know how many points, but I made a good, I would say not a handsome profit, but some good profit. And this is, what my trade plan was. Okay. Secondly, now let me switch back to the daily chart. And from the daily chart, let's study the, first of all, the volumes. So the yesterday's auction, the volumes are pretty decent enough. And what we see is some sort of good spike. It's not a spike, but a wick, which is seen, or buying weak is seen. The low is weaker, and the high is also weaker. So if you study from the intraday perspective, yes, both the low and high are weaker. But here, from price action perspective, good absorption of supply went on. So today, what we need to see is whether we see continuation to the higher side or whether we see balancing. Okay, that's the overall auction, which I'm anticipating, which I'm looking at, because this entire zone, this is the buying zone. So this is where buyers came in. Okay, so again, if the auction again reaches here, buyers will again try to step in, and this particular candle is where again buyers will try to step in. So around 12,600. Okay. So we need to see whether we see follow through or continuation to the upside, or whether we see some sort of balancing activity. Yeah. So that is from the daily chart. Let me see from the VSA chart. Yeah, nothing much. Excuse. Okay, so this is where the auction started, and this is what many people would have looked at, that okay, this is a selling opportunity, a good wick is formed, and the stop loss got hit, and then again the auction went down. Because as soon as it tagged the low, then again buyers stepped in, and then the auction just went higher. So around this sort of development is where you could have entered the trade and just continued higher. So that's the overall option, or how you should trade. Secondly, why should you enter here? Is or why you should enter here? What made buyers enter here? So one of the reasons which I share to everyone or whoever asks me is, so if you study the yesterday's auction. So let me split day before yesterday's auction. Okay, so let me grab a marker. So one of the reference was the low of 25th of November. So this low yesterday, and the another reference was this low, the low of 23rd of November. Okay. So first of all, this low was weaker. It was exactly at the half back. So this was a weak low, and I was expecting it to get tagged. Second immediate reference was the POC of the 20th of November. So whenever there are multi-day low, two-day low or a 3-day low, you should be anticipating to look for a trade on the long side, not on the short side. Okay, because there will be liquidity, there will be stop loss orders, below this levels. So let them execute. Once the stop loss orders get executed, then buyers will step in. Okay. So this is 1-day low and this is the 2-day low. Okay. So when the 2-day low was crossed, and when I was seeing some sort of rejection around the POC of the 20th of November, so that's where I was thinking to enter a long trade. Okay, but I did not do that, because what I was expecting is whether I'm getting a follow through or not. So that is what I was looking at. But what this did not happen. So what happened is, I was actually looking at the 2-day low. So when the auction, so this particular auction closed, and when this sort of price action started forming, so there was a weak high. That's where I entered the long trade, because the auction immediately is below the 2-day low, and also it entered the yesterday's low. So this is where I entered for a long trade, keeping my stop loss below the 2-day low. Okay, so this was the stop loss, and first target was the high, and the second target was this spike base. Okay, so these were the two targets which I was looking at. So this is where I entered, and then I was just patiently waiting and watching how the auction developed. So this target was also it, and this target was also it. So that's how I traded the yesterday's auction from intraday. And also, if you see, I was also looking at this. So this is where when this particular high was broken, this is where I entered, and then I basically was sailing through the overall auction. Okay. So now let me delete that. So that was the overall plan. Now today, so let me merge this. So today's levels are the yesterday's high, yesterday's low. I'll remove all this. So this HVN is gone. We got two more HVNs on the upper side. So I'll just remove this particular HVN. Okay. This reference also I'm deleting. This reference also I'm deleting. Overall, we have a single print here. So the auction will open. So let's see where the auction opens. Okay. So the auction is opened around yesterday's range and it is continuing higher, and now we are nearing towards this particular single print zone. So this is where some selling will happen, selling pressure will come in. And let me also add the data points. Okay, so this is the HVN, and these are the low volume area nodes. So sellers would be stepping in. The HVN is tagged, and we are expecting the auction now to fill the gap. Auction opened with a good gap up, and now let's see whether this gap is getting filled. This is where sellers are there, and from the order flow chart, 2500 contracts have been traded. So this is one HVN. Also now this reference. This is one more HVN, and we have got one more HVN here. So let me just add that HVN. Okay. So let's see whether the gap is getting filled or not. Overall delta is positive. It's just hovering around the 0 line. Let me just expand the chart to look at the order flow data. Okay, so high is weaker, low is weaker. Both the high and low, there are unfinished auctions. So let this particular gap be filled, and then let's expect whether we see some sort of choppiness action or not. Okay. So 4,000 contracts have been traded. We are 2 minutes to go before the current auction closes. Okay. So there is some comment. Let me just take that comment from Nitish. Can you just pull back? Can you just pull back low? Which one consider, and also spike is there. So can you elaborate more? Pull back low. Where is the pullback low? Which one to consider? Also spike is there. With spike, let me this pullback low and this spike. Not understanding, Nitish. I'm not understanding your message. Are you talking the high of yesterday, the spike which came in, or for which day? Is it 25th of November or 26th of November? So the auction is just chopping around VWAP. So this was a reference where sellers came in and then they took the auction down. Okay, and this is a single print zone. So this is a selling zone. So let's see whether sellers continue. Secondly, the high is weaker. So we have a high which is weaker. The low is okay. The low is weaker, but high odds are higher that we will be tagging the high of today. The reason is it's exactly at the half back. Okay, so the selling which came in is weaker. So expect the high to be tagged and this particular single print to be auction to be cleared. Okay, and also first of all I'm waiting for this particular gap to get filled. Okay, so let me just merge this. Okay, so yesterday pullback which level, and spike came in at 2 p.m. It's 2 p.m. This spike you're talking of. So this was more like a stop hunting move, Nitish. Uh, uh, yeah. Uh, this is a pullback low, but I'm not. So I'm not. So one thing is I've just moved away from that spike and pull back and all those stuff, because that adds some sort of I would say exactness in my trading. So what am I doing is where the auction is getting rejected. So here is where the auction is getting rejected. But this low is weaker because if you see, it's more like a AB power low. Same way, the high is weaker because this is also AB power high. Okay, sort of just a few ticks away. So both the low and high are weaker. So I'm expecting this particular gap to get filled. And then again, buyers coming in and taking the auction higher and filling the single print here. Secondly, we also have got so if the high of this, if the high of 25th of November is not getting tagged, then this is going to be the day 1, day 2, day 3, the G3 high, and here also we have got G2 low. So a lot of nuances are getting filled, or getting formed as the auction is continuously developing. But in single print, stop hunt is possible. See, Nitish, anything is possible. You cannot come up with a bias that if you see a single print, then stop hunt will happen. If you don't see a single print, stop hunt. See, anything is possible, and we are just understanding the option development process using market profile. We are not market profile traders, wherein we sell at value area high, buy at value area low, and if we see a reference, that's where we sell. No, so don't use market profile like that. Use it to study the auction, where it is finding acceptance, where it is finding rejection, and where it is a good area to enter a trade. Yeah, so first is understanding the auction development process, and then finding good trades. So yeah, that's what I use. So Jim Dalton also tweet pullback low is important reference. Yes, last week. Yeah, so he's Jim Dalton. I'm not Jim Dalton. He is much more experienced. I am not. And I think what he tweeted was, I think, around the all-time highs. So this was the all-time highs. Somewhere is where it created. Uh, and there was in the ES chart, which I think Jim Dalton has shared. There were a couple of references. So I believe the one of the reference was poor high, or the high was weaker, and he shared that a lot of the reason why the high was created was a lot of people were anticipating because of the vaccine coming in, and they were just trying to buy. Okay, uh, yeah. So Jim Dalton is Jim Dalton, but I am not Jim Dalton. He uses that, and he uses on ES Mini. He's not using on Nifty, so that also makes the difference. Yeah. Okay. So coming back to so the first 5 minutes, we had 6,200 contracts traded. Delta is positive. The high is not yet tagged. The low is, there is also unfinished auction around the both high and lows. The auction closed above VWAP, and right now it's just a dull, boring auction. Auction, which is happening, which is developing. Okay. Uh, yeah, Nitish, I understand, but I'm just sharing my feedback. And see, pullback low and all that. That references you can use after the end of the day. So so this particular zone is weaker. So I'm expecting this option to get tagged. Okay. Yeah, it is a pullback low, but I'm not I'm not putting more emphasis on those sort of nuances. Okay. Yeah. So just a second. Let me just look at the volume profile chart. So we have a HVN here, and these are the low volume area nodes. From the price action perspective, this is where stop loss orders would be there, which has been tagged, and this is the selling zone. So yeah, so I'm expecting sellers to step in. That's what the overall outcome is. Yeah, so the second 5-minute auction is closed, 4,000 contracts traded, and the auction is closed below VWAP. So now some choppiness action will be seen around VWAP. Yeah. Okay, so let's see, are there any trade locations? I'm not seeing any trade locations for the moment, but a quick scalp trade is what I'm looking at. So you can take a short trade, keeping a stop loss above VWAP, targeting the low. So it is a 1:1 trade. It's a risky trade, but yeah, those who want they can take it. But I would say avoid it. Let me just look at the spread. It's surprising. Spread is flat. Yeah. So this is where maximum buyers came in, and then buyers are just drying out. We have got one anomaly here, a couple of anomalies, unfinished options here. So let me just jump to the VSA chart. So there came a signal, VSA sell signal, but overall delta is rising. So a discord is getting formed where the auction is below VWAP and the delta is just going sideways. Yeah. So the trade is still on. You can take a short trade, keeping a stop loss above VWAP, targeting the low. Okay. So let's see whether that happens or not. So one more comment from Nitish: when failed auction is confirmed as 23 in C period or at the end of the day. So failed auction and all that, Nitish, you have to see it from end of the day perspective. All the failed auction, pullback low, the spike and all that, you have to see from the end of the day, not from the intraday perspective. Where is 23? Yeah. So this low was weaker, it got tagged. We have got, yeah, this was already tagged. So we got two highs. This was also tagged. G2 high was also here. Okay. So the auction is just chopping. Delta, there's a delta divergence. So 50 seconds to go. Volumes are fading out. So currently the auction is finding acceptance around the POC of 25th of November. We also have an HVN here. You see here. Yeah. So choppiness zone is there. So I'm seeing some rejection around VWAP. So let's see whether the low is getting tagged or not for today. So 6,000 to 4,000 to 2,600, the delta is negative. So we are seeing momentum sellers now stepping in, and let's see whether the low is getting tagged or not. So good momentum sellers are stepping in. Yeah, so good rejection seen, buyers stepping in, absorbing the supply. So this is giving a good sign that this is where again some buying activity is happening. So this is just a 5 point range. So you have to understand who is coming at 5 points away from the low, who is buying here. So now what will happen is we will see a good tempo to the upside, because those sellers who came here, they would have kept their stop loss above the high of today and the previous 5 minute candle high. Yeah, so this is the behavior. So uh, those of you who try to short, the market is just trying to shake you out of the overall option, out of your trade. Okay, so I'm expecting some good volume flow, but only volume is pretty less. We are just a minute to go before the current auction closes. Cumulative delta is just getting flat. Seeing some rejection around VWAP. So good opportunity to take a short position now, keeping a stop loss above this candle high, current high, targeting the low. Okay, so VWAP test is done. So now let's see whether we see continuation to the downside and whether we see lower lows getting formed or not. Okay, so 6,000 to 4,000 to 2,000 to 2,000. Okay, so now we need to see a follow through. The delta is negative, so let's see whether we see a follow through and the low is getting tagged or not. And buyers are stepping in. So doji candle is getting formed. Trapped sellers. We got one unfinished option here. Low to be tagged. The odds are high that the low would be tagged. So let's see whether that happens or not. Okay, and this is one area or one balance. So we are just trading within that balance. Value dropped yesterday. Now we are seeing higher value. But we are in this balance. So there was this 45-degree line and there's this 45-degree line. And the option is just finding buyers around the POC of 25th of November. Okay, and momentum buyers again stepping in. So market is just chopping currently. It's just tagging the VWAP coming down. Again trying to tag the VWAP coming down. So let it chop. So those of you who are in profit or loss, if you don't want to, or if you're feeling stressful, you can just exit your trades. So some choppiness action is going on. So I'm just observing the auction. What is happening is buyers are trying to step in. We are just in a choppiness zone. So some sort of rejection is seen from VWAP. Now the delta is becoming positive. So the option is just trying to go near low and again buyers are stepping. Again trying to go near the low and buyers are stepping in. Okay, not a good sign. And also around this is the open. This is where the rejection came in. And yeah. So just intraday traders, because the volumes are pretty low. So not heavy action, trading activities happening. So red in India, we don't have level 2, we just use level 1. We need to get direct access to, and that's pretty expensive for us. So I am just using level 1 data. So now the VWAP is tagged and there are stop loss above this candle high, the 935 candle. Okay, so let's see whether what is the tempo coming in. So we are just tagging the open and coming down, tagging the open, coming down. So not a good activity. Also getting rejected around VWAP, sellers coming in. Yeah, so look at this tempo which came in from selling. So good tempo coming in. Now the low odds are higher that the low would be tagged. And the low is tagged. And these are the stop loss orders which are getting hit. So those of you who are in profits, you should go take out of the trade. The gap is filled. And let it enter yesterday's range. Let the current option enter yesterday's range. Just a few ticks away. So this to this. This is just 3 ticks or 3 points away from yesterday's high. So let this be tagged, let the auction enter yesterday's range. Also the high is weaker, so let's see whether the high is getting tagged or not today. I'm expecting continuation to the lower side. Volume flow is okay, 3500 contracts. Okay, so the low is getting tagged and I think the gap is almost filled. Yes, now the gap is filled and someone would be booking their profits. So those who sold here would be buying here. That's why these buying orders are being seen. Okay, so that was one good trade for today. And now let's just see whether we are having continuation. or rejection. Okay, let me just jump to the volume profile chart. So this was the HVN, and we are now nearing the low volume area node. So we would be seeing some rejection around this single print zone. Okay, so just keep on observing that, and I think Monday is a trading holiday. The next session we'll be having is on Tuesday. Tuesday is 1st of December. Okay, so with that, I'm ending the session for today, and let's catch up on the Tuesday because Monday is a holiday because of Guru Nanak Jayanti, and I think markets are also closed. So thank you, and let's catch up on the next trading session. Yeah, take care. Bye.